passenger seats. Relays. Fuse box, right? The door lock module. Main relays. Now the RPM relay fits right under here, and it's missing, but this plugs into that. That's the door locks. This is basically what I thought this might do, if you were interested, is show you where some of the problem spots on the car typically are. There's been so much posted on the various websites that probably one of the best ones is on Rob put this together from Zilla that showed all the problem spots with the fuse box, and there's like 5 particular ones on here. Usually the fuse connection starts getting bad, starts getting hot, melts the area around where the fuse plugs in, starts to deform, and you wind up with a bad connection. But the fuse didn't blow, but it melts in place. I'm sure everybody's had at least one of those happen to their car. Interestingly enough, my theory on that is that it's the battery. It's right underneath this compartment right here where the battery sits. Especially if you let the battery run down, then you charge it back up, and you leave it in the car. The gases fill up that compartment, and you wind up getting corrosion on all the connections, and that's one of the main problems with it.
Excuse me, Harold. Can I interrupt a half second?
Okay.
Anybody want raffle tickets who haven't gotten any raffle tickets?
You gonna do that right now?
Well, because the raffle's in like 45 minutes, and we need to sell the raffle tickets. So they're all over here for 45 minutes. Then
No, we're gonna be here. We're gonna be here.
20, because then they have to do officer elections. This is what I got. I'm sorry. I've got 15 minutes to sell.
This is DMA pre-roll advertising.
That's right. Everybody got raffle tickets? Raffle tickets. We're all good, right? All right. Thank you. Resume.
Well, the connections not only on the fuses can start to corrode, but the fuses on all the relays too. And so you've got, right, that's one of the main things I think that's why you should take out the fuses, clean them up, replace them, take all those connections apart. Now none of these are the more modern weather pack connections. All of these are just open to the air. You know, it's open to weather, everything else. So you're going to have problems with connections. You need to just really do a lot of keeping these clean. One of the things I found successful on the relays and all the connections in this compartment, especially before I got the Optima battery, because I think the Optima's, there's no gassing on that, and it really keeps the whole thing a lot cleaner, is to put some dielectric grease on all the connections, and that'll keep a lot of the corrosion down.
Can I offer another comment on that?
What's that?
I'm in the marine world a good bit, and we use a product called CRC 666, which is the spray can. And you can spray it on all the terminals. I took out all my fuses and all my relays and sprayed everything, so it got all the terminals wet with this stuff. And then it leaves sort of a little protective film, like
that's what it needs.
Dielectric grease you're talking about, right?
A lot of those products from the marine world are good for keeping the connections clean. Because that's what it needs. This connection right here. Now this goes off to the. These run off to the doors right here. These connections are in the door. Inside the car, usually don't wind up with much corrosion. Usually don't have too much problems with those. This right here is the You recognize this, I'm sure, the colors, the bulkhead connections.
Yep.
And these are on the inside of the car, and usually not too much trouble with these unless you let the cover. A lot of the covers weren't tight in the engine compartment. Get a lot of contamination, and so you'll wind up needing to take these off and keep them clean. Mostly for engine management, and then of course all the electrics that go all to the lights in the tail, brake lights, all that sort of stuff, all plug into here. Now these two connections right here are on the bulkhead behind the passenger seat. You recognize that? All black wires to the ground. It's bolted up, and those bolts in particular become corroded. Some of them become loose.
Yep.
You wind up with a bad ground. Sounds familiar?
Yeah.
Same way on the power side, because all the power from the battery comes right through here. This is it. And with a bad connection, you're going to wind up with not much power distribution through the rest of the car. And that's a lot of wire. There's a lot of modifications that have gone on with this kind of stuff over the years, but
It's not very efficient to run all of those positives all the way to the battery like that, but
well, and it's a long way, but
Yeah.
with a lot of bolted connections, so it's important to have them all tight. There's been modifications to run directly to the battery and stuff like that. But, probably the biggest thing is just getting the fans out of the cable. But that's these connections right here are really critical. If you haven't ever checked them, you probably should, just to make sure they're tight and clean. Also, back on the frame, there's a couple of ground wires that are extremely important to come from this and go down to the frame to keep everything grounded. So once you're back there, you see those, you'll see what I'm talking about. But those are critical connections. Let's see. Most everything on this side, the ignition computer is under here. Usually not too much trouble with those. There's a let's see, there's a lambda here, and then there's the engine idle computer that's missing, but those are the connections. Usually not too much trouble on that side. Why is there not too much trouble on that side? Well, the connections for the computer here are well protected, and it's away from the battery. So you don't wind up with near the problem when you've got all the main connections, but it's right over the battery. So I can't emphasize enough how much the gassing of that battery can affect the connections on your electrodes. Following the wiring harness forward, not too much trouble. I think everybody has probably had or heard of somebody having a melted electric window wires. Usually it's from either putting your elbow on the up or down of the window switch. If you drive around with your elbow there, you don't realize it, but you've got the window up or down, and that'll it's at window lock, and it'll heat everything up pretty fast. And the first thing to go is the connection. If the switch doesn't go first, but it's usually the connection.
Why doesn't it blow a fuse?
I just didn't. I've never heard of it. The fuse is 30 amp fuse, first of all, which is probably too high.
Right.
That's like this right here that runs the locks. Now, you've heard of the situation where the doors lock and you can't unlock them. There's a little adjustment thing in there that when I got my first DeLorean in '82, I hadn't had it a week, and I was in my driveway and I tried to unlock the door to get out, and it wouldn't unlock. And of course, I didn't know what to do. I only had the car a few weeks, and I couldn't get out. I mean, I'd try and hold it down, and it wouldn't open. Finally, I heard it go clink, and it finally blew the circuit breaker. This circuit breaker right here, and I opened the door. And